Lately, my city has been growing. It's now up to 17,000 population, and some of our older highway connections just aren't cutting it anymore. Today, I'm going to be diving head in and trying my best to improve the traffic flow in my city, as well as revamping some of the not so ideal highway interchanges I've made. We're going to try to make them a little more realistic and beautiful. Then afterwards, we're going to be doing some slight expansions to the city just to push ever forward into finishing the footprint of the metropolitan area. Like always, if you're excited to see me continue to build out our Colorado-inspired city, consider leaving a like or a comment. It really helps to push my videos to new viewers. But without further ado, let's get started. Twice a day, every single day at rush hour, this bridge becomes completely locked up, and I think there are a couple things we can do to alleviate that. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove left turns on this side of the street here. Now we're going to have a different way that the people on this side of the highway can get going this direction, and we're going to add that later. But for now, I'm going to disallow left turns here. I'm also going to disallow left turns here, and then I'm going to do that on these side streets as well. We need to make sure that the traffic on this street in particular is just going through, and then if you want to go onto the main street, you can. But clogging up this intersection right here with these alleyways just doesn't make much sense. We fix some of these here, so I'm just going to draw out some of these surfaces just to get them fitting the entire road now that the median's gone. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the traffic controller, and I'm going to go to the lane connector tool, and I'm just going to make sure the lane math is all looking good. So what I want is I want this to be a dedicated left turn lane. So I want these two to be a dedicated left, and then this one you can either go straight or you can turn right. That way, if you want to turn left, you've got plenty of capacity to do so. Otherwise, you can go straight or turn right in the right lane. The next order of business is getting a little bit of an expansion on these on-ramps and off-ramps. First of all, these on-ramps and off-ramps are just a little bit too short. We need to lengthen these so it looks a little bit more realistic. And then also, I might want to add just a couple of extra connections so people aren't always having to get off right here. I think that already looks a lot better from an aesthetic standpoint. Having the highway ramps just be a little bit bigger, give us a little bit more space. I think we've got a little bit of an issue here, so let's see if I can fix that. If I could just raise this up so it's not looking strange. And then we'll do the same thing for here because we've got a little bit of a divot here as well. We've got to be careful. And that is looking pretty smooth. Now I'd like to do an extra connection on this side here, and let's see if we can achieve that. So I want to go right here and just curve this off so they can get off onto this area right here. And we're going to have to remove the industry that we have here. I think that's totally fine. We're going to have to do a little bit of shuffling around to get these roads just right. Now, I try my best to avoid doing any road deletions whenever I can, but at the current moment, we're going to have to do a little bit of shuffling around. Right here at this intersection, we can see there's a little bit of congestion here. I think one thing that I can definitely do is remove this road here. And then also, I'm probably going to disallow left turns on this alleyway here. There's just no point in having the left turns on the alleyways, I think. Moving along here, we can try to figure out some other options that we have. So I think this is fine. I don't think I want to disallow left turns here. I think I do want to disallow left turns here. Let's just see. Let's go into the traffic connector tool and just look at this intersection here. So ideally in the real world, this median wouldn't even be split right here. It would just be completely solid. So let's see if we can remove this. And then anywhere else where we're going, you know, from here to here. So like this can be split. And then, so you can either turn right, or you can go straight. I think that's a little bit more realistic because in the real world, this median wouldn't even be split in the first place, but we just got to kind of work around that since the game automatically does that. Let's also just convert these into keys so they've got some walls going here and they're not just floating awkwardly over the highway. It's going to look a little bit more natural if we do something like this. And I think that looks pretty nice. Perhaps we could also add an extra bridge here. We've got these two roads here that are perfectly lined up. So let's see about adding a bridge right through this section here. Now we're going to have to lower down this rail just a little bit in order to give this bridge enough clearance for the cargo rail. So let's just take a look and see if we can find our nodes. We've got a node here, and it looks like our next node is right there. So let's just lower both of these down. I'd kind of prefer if there wasn't a wall there. So let's see what we can do to get rid of this wall here and smooth it out a bit. I think that looks nice. Let's just remove some of these trees here to make sure there's nothing blocking the rail. Since we place these trees down with Anarchy, they don't go away when you make changes to the terrain, so we have to go and manually remove them sometimes. Now that we've got this bridge here, we just need to connect it up to our main avenue. So let's remove this road here, and then we'll just connect it straight through. And then perhaps just for fun, let's add a slip lane right here to add a little bit more throughput to this intersection. We're definitely going to have to clean this up a tad. It's looking a bit weird. We've got this elevated segment, which is messing with the terrain here. Let's see if we can figure that out. Okay, I think this is looking a lot more clean. We just need to disallow right turns here so they're forced to use the slip lane. I think that looks pretty nice, so let's move on here. I think the next thing I'd like to do is clean up this intersection. I kind of slapped this down temporarily just so it was functional, but to be honest, it looks really bad. I don't want to change up the structure too much, but I think I can do a lot better job of making these ramps look more clean and realistic. So I just lost about 2 hours of footage. The last 2 hours just came up as a black screen in OBS, so there's not really much I can do to get that back, but I'll just go over some of the changes that I made in the meantime. So I finally got something that I kind of like going for this intersection here. It's just this thing where we've got these two bridges that are overlapping over each other to make the on-ramps here. And I think it's looking nice and it's looking symmetrical. I also redid the ramps here. So we've got ramps going on and off in all four directions. And I extended this one out a little bit. So if you remember, it was a little bit short in the beginning and I made it about twice as long. And so I think that's looking really nice. I also added 2 extra ramps over here, which I also tried to make a little bit longer than I usually do. I think that's something that I need to work on. A lot of the ramps that I make are a little bit too short. And so I'm trying to make them a little bit longer. So I've got 2 ramps going here so people can go and get onto Brook Street if they need to, or they can get off onto Brook Street. And then over here, I did a couple of different things. So I made this passenger train station here. I didn't change this section here, so we've still got this bypass for all the cargo rail, And then right here, it just kind of swoops in, and we got a little passenger station here. And so that is connecting out to the outside connections over in this direction and over in the other direction there. The other thing I did here was make this pedestrian connection, because I was noticing that one of the things that was slowing down the traffic a lot was that there was a lot of different people that were walking to and from this bridge here. And there still are a ton of people walking on this bridge. And so I wanted to reroute some of the pedestrian traffic so it's not interfering with any of this car traffic here. And we've got a little bit of a pile up here. It was clear for a while, but now it's getting busy again. So I think we're going to have to do some even bigger changes to try to get this to clear up here. But one other thing that I did here was I added a way for this section of town here to be able to get onto the highway going west without having to cross a bridge. So I made this ramp here, and it just kind of loops around and it connects right here. So if you want to be going west, you can do that. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, we still are not allowing left turns here. So I think that's going to route a decent amount of the traffic that was sort of holding up this bridge here, and it's going to reroute it into this on-ramp here. Now, there still is a lot of traffic, like I said, but I think it still looks quite a bit better than what we had before, where before it was backing up even all the way over to here and all the way into here. And so I think we've reduced the traffic by at least half with the changes that we made, but it's still a little bit backed up, and I think we're going to have to figure out what we want to do to change some of that. That's pretty much all that I accomplished in that lost footage that I had there. I really wish that I still had it. I'm not sure what happened with OBS. It just kind of messed up on me, so that's unfortunate. But moving on now, I think I want to do a couple extra things to this intersection here, and maybe what I would like to do is have an extra slip lane for people that are going this direction. And then also there's a couple of things here, like for some reason there's a light here, which I definitely don't want that. And I definitely don't want an extra crossing. I think I actually want to remove this crossing as well. If they want to get to the other side, they should go all the way over here. You know, in a perfect world, I'm sure the crossing would be really good there, but with it being an American themed city, most likely there wouldn't be a pedestrian crossing right here next to these alleyways. Now let's see what we can do here. So maybe I can make a little bit of a slip lane so people can easily get into the right here without having to stop and slow down traffic right here. Now I have to decide at this point what I want to do with this intersection here. There isn't really a point to this lane here if we're not going to allow left turns on this bridge. And I don't think I want to only have this slip lane here. I like having both lanes. So given that, I think I'm going to re-allow left turns on this bridge, and we're just going to see how that turns out. I think it's going to reduce some friction at the very least, because anybody from the north side trying to go west on the highway isn't going to be passing through that intersection, so it's going to free up a little bit of space. Definitely let me know what you think about these changes here. I think this works a lot better from a traffic standpoint. Things are flowing a lot more smoothly than they were before. We've got a lot of extra connections and smoother connections at that. I do still struggle at this point a little bit with the aesthetics of putting all these roads together. I am happy with how things are now, but it's definitely a big change in terms of the overall composition of this highway segment. So you'll have to let me know what you think of the changes. Maybe you have some suggestions on how we can have more traffic throughput or make some of these changes just a little bit more clean. For now, I think I'd like to expand a little bit into this direction with a small suburb on the hillside here. So I'm going to get started on that now. I think I'm going to grab this green grass texture here and use the area bucket tool to see if I can change some of the textures quickly in this area. I can change the flooding depth perhaps, and maybe change the size of the brush just a little bit to get it just right. Maybe let's do 90 meters here and see how that works. I think that does look quite nice. It just breaks up the grass texture just a little bit, making a difference between the wild areas and the more manicured suburban areas. We are trying to follow the contour lines a bit here, so I've got some open spaces where the elevation changes. This suburb is a little bit on the outskirts of town, even though technically it is pretty close to downtown. On a smaller scale, it's a bit farther away, so there wouldn't be as much need to try to fill every square foot of space as efficiently as possible in a neighborhood like this. One thing I'd like to do now that we've got this neighborhood built out here is get a highway connection going for this service road. So I'm going to try to bridge over the river here and then make a connection to the highway, so no matter where you're at, you have an easy way to get on and off the highway. You know what? It is a little bit wonky and overcomplicated in some ways, but I do think it looks nice. It is going to have a lot more use later on as we expand out and start building this city to the west out here, which is going to be pretty dense. So we're definitely going to be seeing more traffic going to and from our major cities. So I think it is a really good idea just to future-proof some of these areas over here. So whenever we do have a lot more population going west and east, we'll have some connections here. Now, as we go on, I might want to upgrade this to a divided highway. So, we'll have to just do that when we get there if we want to have a divided highway here, or maybe we can just start the divide here. And I know a lot of these aren't really ideal roads if we're going to be calling them highways, like having this just flat intersection here. But I'm going to be developing all of this out, pretty extensively as we build into this area. So for right now, these roads are kind of just placeholders, and they're kind of just there to serve the small amount of traffic that we have to and from our city and outside of the region. But as we go on, I'm definitely going to be upgrading more and more of this, so it's definitely not going to be a permanent thing. I'm wondering if we're going to be seeing any traffic at all that's going to be taking that intersection. So let's see where this truck is going. Let's just go right here and take a look. And nope, he's going into the intersection. That's unfortunate. I did see one car go through here and use the interchange to go to the Willowbrook Highway, but it isn't seeing that much use currently at the moment. Oh, we've got one car here. Let's see what direction they go in. So they're going, looks like, oh, yep, they're going to go west. So perfect. I'm glad that some people are at least using this intersection. And like I said, the use is going to grow as over time this area grows. But for now, I think this looks really, really nice. Next episode, I think we're going to tackle a university campus build. I think that's going to be really fun, and it's going to allow me to do a little bit more detailing and building. I know some of these episodes recently have been a little bit lesser on the detail than usual, but I think the university campus, which I'm probably going to put over there, up on that hill over there in that flat land that you see there, and I think it's going to look really, really nice. And so that's what we're going to be doing next episode. And then after that, don't really have much that I want to accomplish in this city. So I think here very soon we're going to start working on the Denver inspired city, which, like I've said, many times before, is going to be over here near this lake. We've got this huge flat land that's going to be perfect to build, a sprawling, dense city. But I've been doing a lot of planning to make sure that this city is going to look really cool. It's going to look dense and have interesting, complex infrastructure to manage, how many citizens we're going to have here, because I imagine this is probably going to be twice the size and population of our first city. So we're probably going to be pushing above 50,000 residents. So we're definitely going to have to make sure that all of our infrastructure, like our highways and our rail systems, are all working well and in good places and stuff to make sure to manage the huge influx of population that's going to come with this city here. I do want to thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed this one. I know it was a little bit lesser on the building, more focused on the roads and the infrastructure, and I hope you guys like the changes that I made in this video. If you have any suggestions, definitely let me know in the comments. But like I said, thank you so much for watching this video, and stick around till the end. If you like the video, I would appreciate a like. If you want to see more, consider subscribing, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good one, everybody.